Hey, what's up, everybody? Jonathan Bailor and April Perry are back with another SANE show, and we are going to talk about some sweet exercise stuff today. One of my favorite topics and potential areas for myth busting. But before we do that, we got to see, April, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. I'm really excited to talk about this today. I always feel like I'm going into this therapy session, but I know that other people have the same questions. So I feel like I'm the mouthpiece for all of the people out there who want to learn from you.
You're the mouthpiece for a generation, April.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So what is the topic, the therapy session for today?
Okay, I know. So first of all, I just want to let you know that I'm not a superficial person, okay? And I really don't think most people are superficial people. I think most people really want to live a life of purpose. I think they want to help others. I think if you ask someone, would you rather wear a size 2 or build a school for 300 children in a developing country? I think most people would choose, if they had to pick one, would want to help other people. Like, I really feel like most people want to be able to live a purpose and live a mission and live well. At the same time, because of our society, because of the media, because of this pressure that we've totally put on ourselves to look a certain way, there are millions and millions. I don't think it's just girls. I know men who are wanting to be more muscular or lose inches or whatever, but a lot of women who waste, I'll say waste because I do it too, thousands of hours throughout their life feeling stressed that their bodies don't look a certain way. I mean, this isn't new information. This is something that's out there all the time. So what I love about SANE is that we're talking about doing the main things right. I mean, honestly, I'm eating 15 servings of vegetables a day. I'm eating 3 servings of kale in the morning with my egg whites and little egg yolk. I'm having spinach smoothies 2 or 3 times a day. I mean, I am eating really, really sanely and taking care of the big things. And I'm sleeping and I'm standing and I'm walking and I'm doing weights. I feel like I'm a good student. I've said this before. I'm a really good student of yours. But then there's questions as far as, okay, but let's say I want my body to be more toned. The people around me who I see doing that or see who have really toned bodies spend a couple of hours at the gym every day, the ones that I personally know. So my question for you is, if we want to live a sane lifestyle, and we don't necessarily want to be a fitness model, I'm never going to be in a bikini contest ever. I'll say this publicly because I'm never going to do it. What would I do? Or what would you suggest for someone who wants to just tone their body so they feel stronger, they feel better, they feel happier? Just help us here.
The first thing I would say is that's in some ways it's actually a fantastic goal, because I would so much rather, if I could give a gift to a daughter I hopefully have someday, if she were to be concerned about her physical appearance and her concern was, I want to look toned and fit versus I want to look skinny, I would say, I'd give her a big hug and say, sweetheart, that is a great goal to have, because being toned and fit is indicative of health, whereas being skinny is not. So I think that's a really big distinction to begin with. So when it comes to being toned and fit, in some ways, it can be a bit of an uphill battle, because what we have, especially for our females out there, what you've been taught for thousands of years, because it's very misogynistic, is to be smaller and to fade into the background. So to eat less, to be secondary, right? I mean,
right.
it's
I'm sorry, I'm so glad we don't have corsets, but you know what we have now, or what do they call the Spanx? They're all over the place, and so I can't breathe in something like that.
But here's the big, and so that's the software that's been downloaded into our brain. Be smaller, eat less. If you're going to exercise, your exercise should be focused on shrinking yourself, like excessive cardiovascular types of exercise. So starving yourself just differently with more calories out rather than fewer calories in. Now, toning your body, looking toned and fit and healthy, actually requires really 2 big changes in that mindset that are very healthy. And one is a focus on eating more, but of the nutrient dense food. So the protein intake is going to be, you will never have a toned, healthy looking body unless you take in the raw material necessary to build and develop that body. And when I say build and develop, I mean that very intentionally, because resistance training and strength training are like the stimulus. So there's you need to have the stimulus to tell your body, become toned, become fit, become firm, not skinny, become strong and toned and powerful. The stimulus to trigger your body to do that is heavy, safe resistance training. And the fuel it requires to do that is in large part protein. But, you know, the two things women in our culture have been told consistently are, don't strength train, it'll make you look like a man. And two, you know, you don't really need to eat protein. You know, eat protein from beans, or, you know, not actual protein. So those are two big things we need to address right from the beginning.
Okay, so let's just specify this a little bit more. Let's say if serving numbers, let's just talk about serving numbers of protein. I know in like the SANE app, I think, was it 3 to 6 servings of protein per day?
Correct. And but it's really important, not only that, but to understand what a serving of protein is. Okay, so let's talk about it. And that's really important, because we get questions consistently, which are, and this is, again, we live in a culture that makes this really hard. So let's give ourselves all a pat on the back here, that we are not only, we're in some ways, we're fighting an uphill battle with like a parachute on our back and in the snow. I mean, because you look at a protein bar that's sold at your local grocery store, I can almost guarantee you it has less than 10 grams of protein in it. And it's just filled with sugar.
Like 25 grams of sugar. Yeah.
Fiber 1, protein plus, now with 6 grams of sugar in it. You're like, what? This cereal is a great source of protein. It has 7 grams of protein in it. So for something to cause a meaningful change in your body, this is why we generally talk about the 30 gram of protein threshold. So just to geek out for a second, there is a clinically proven difference, for example, between an individual who were to eat 15 grams of protein at 10 a.m. and then 15 grams of protein at 3 p.m. versus someone who ate 30 grams of protein at once. That does something fundamentally different to your body. And the reason for that is when you eat protein in a certain dose, there are certain receptors in your brain and that say, hey, look, I've got enough protein that I can use it in sort of non-mission critical ways. For example, having nice looking arms that aren't flabby. Like, your body doesn't need nice looking arms to not die. So that's sort of lower.
Can I quote you on that?
so that's lower on its priority list. So you have to eat a certain threshold of protein for it to be used for these non-essential purposes. And that's and you're never going to get, you cannot be healthy and eat sufficient doses of protein unless you're getting your protein from concentrated sources of protein, and things like nuts, things like seeds, things like beans. Things like any grain are not concentrated sources of protein. If you were trying to eat 30 grams of protein from quinoa, you would have to eat way more quinoa than is healthy.
Okay, so if you were at my house and you were helping me plan out my meals for the day, what would you suggest for someone like me? So as far as like activity level, I'm at the gym twice a week doing my eccentric exercises, trying to push myself as hard as I can. I know I'm a whip, but I'm getting better. I go rollerblading 3 days a week, walking, moving around with my kids, but that's about how active I am right now. What would you suggest that I eat? How many servings of protein and what protein? I'm actually really excited to ask you this question.
Well, we'll do breakfast, lunch, and dinner in a sec, but just so we don't forget it, I want to also just mention one quick thing about that time that's spent in the gym doing the eccentric exercise. Okay. And you can definitely, I'm not skirting the question. We can absolutely.
You are going to answer this question.
I'm going to answer this question. But when we say eccentrically exercising, right, it's eat more, exercise less, but smarter. And the smarter part of the exercise less has to do with really focusing on the quality of our movement. And again, especially with females, when when resistance training has been taught to females, it's been taught to them from the perspective often of pick up those little pink weights in the corner. And while you talk to your girlfriends, kind of like move them around your head a little bit.
Yeah.
So the greatest thing in the world about CrossFit. So I'm going to give CrossFit a high five for the reason that it has celebrated the strong woman that works out the exact same way that a man should work out. There's no like these sort of female shaving razors versus men's shaving razors. Like it's a blade on your skin. Look, if you want to have toned muscular legs, you need to squat, you need to deadlift, you need to do these basic movements, which human beings have been doing since the beginning of time, and you need to add resistance progressively. That's the bottom line. So I just want to make sure that there is no like females have these different muscles and need to be no. And we got to do that. So hard. And we got to do that hard, right? Like I want to see, just like you see men in the gym that are sweating and grunting and it doesn't look like they're having fun. It's not necessarily fun. I mean, it is fun over time once you get the hang of it, but the results are really, really, really fun. So I just want to make sure that we're given what we need to give in the gym. We could maybe talk about that more in another episode, but do you want to get back to breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
So, well, real quick, do you think I should do CrossFit?
No, so, okay, CrossFit, here's why CrossFit is, there are good things and bad, there's good and bad things about anything, right? Like the books can be used for good or evil. It depends on how we use them. So CrossFit is just football conditioning that's been made available to the masses, right? It's not something it's plyometric training. CrossFit is another way to think of CrossFit is competitive weightlifting. It's like team competitive weightlifting. And this could be its own show, so I'll try to go through this quickly. The fundamental difference, so there's bodybuilding, which means I'm lifting weights to change the shape and appearance of my body. There is CrossFit, which is I am trying to execute a certain number of exercises in a certain period of time because I'm competing with another person. And then there's powerlifting, which is I'm trying to lift a certain amount of weight. I don't care how I do it. I just need to lift it. Okay. So those are very different things. So the goal of CrossFit is not the same as the goal of bodybuilding, which is not the same as the goal of powerlifting. They're very different things. Just like the goal of marathon training would be different than those things. The thing that
what would you send me to do? All right, go ahead.
So the thing that I think you could get from the CrossFit experience is what it feels like to actually work out intensely, because CrossFit will make you feel what it feels like to the only comparison most human beings have, or let me say not most human beings, females, because guys don't have this, is when we, like my mom's a good example. She was raised in the generation where she was not even allowed to go into the gym at her university. Wasn't even allowed, right? And they were taught, women were taught in the 50s and 60s that weight training was actually bad. It would make them sterile. I mean, this was like what the experts were saying back then. Okay, so most people think that it's hard for me to breathe and I'm sweating a little bit is hard work. Hard work is what you do when you give birth. Like when you're, I'm going to be crude here, but like when you're on the
epidural, Jonathan.
But it's not, I mean, I've never done it, but I hear it's pretty hard work. So.
Okay, all right. So I think there's a definition of hard that I think I need to better understand. My husband tells me this all the time.
Yeah, so they're on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is sleeping and 10 is giving birth or doing something that would prompt you to, excuse me, this is going to be crude, but it's accurate, doing something that would cause you to vomit or defecate. Okay. That's a 10, where you lose control of your body. It just flips out, right? And that happens.
Okay. Right.
Okay. So at the gym, safely, you want to be at like an 8, where you are like, get me the heck out of this place when I'm done. You don't want to poop on the gym floor. What can you agree with? You're laughing, but I don't think that's a good thing.
Sorry, you're cracking me up. My mom would be mortified. Right all right.
But if you go to a CrossFit gym, you might see someone throw up. So they're probably at a 9.
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So,
No, that's
and
helpful.
so what CrossFit will do is CrossFit will show you what it really means to hit an 8 or a 9 on the intensity scale. Now, the thing you want to be
Okay.
careful with on CrossFit is it's very easy to hurt yourself if you're at an 8 or a 9, not doing the wrong things.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So that's and CrossFit, if not properly taught, can, you don't want to be at a 9 while standing on the edge of a cliff, because you could fall off and hurt yourself. So because you're not thinking about anything else. So we want to be intense, but we want to be intense and safe at the same time. And that's what I love so much about eccentric training, is because it is extremely safe and controlled. But so you can go to that level 8, you can go to that level 9 with little, if any, chance of injury.
Okay. I love that. I'm going to report back. Okay, now the food. Let's do breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We'll do this kind of quick. So I know we want to get to the end of the show, but I'm loving this.
So breakfast is simple, and I'm just going to tell you what's SANE, because everyone's like, oh, what if I do that? Okay, I'm just going to give you.
Just tell me, if you were in charge of preparing my meals, if I was like, hey, Jonathan, I'm hiring you to be my personal chef.
So breakfast would be egg based. So it would be a combination of it would be 1 or 2 whole eggs, and then egg whites, until we got you up to about 30 grams of protein. You would then have a green smoothie, which was primarily spinach and or kale and or romaine lettuce with like some lemon in it and maybe some xylitol or erythritol to sweeten it up. And we might put some other things in it like ginger and blah, 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 blah. But basically kind of an egg and vegetable heavy breakfast. Okay. And when I say egg, it's a combination of egg and egg whites, because again, 30 grams of protein from straight up eggs, you'd have to eat 6 eggs, right? Okay. So you got to have egg whites in there. Okay. Lunch is it's a form of humanely raised or humanely farmed or humanely acquired animal food in some way. So whether meat or fish, combined with non-starchy vegetables, combined with nuts or seeds of some sort. And then dinner's the same thing. And if you're really trying to be toned, this is where the whole meal frequency thing comes into play. You're probably going to do more than 3 meals, because part of the reason that you want to become lean and toned is you trigger this thing called muscle protein synthesis. You need your body to be repairing itself. Okay. Well, that happens kind of every time you hit that 30 gram of protein threshold. Your body says, okay, I'm gonna do no. So this is why bodybuilders pretty universally eat 4 to 8 meals per day. People can say intermittent fast and whatever. They're different goals. Bodybuilders, professional bodybuilders, all eat 4 to 6 meals per day. And there's a reason for that. It's because they need to be repairing and building that muscle tissue. So if that's your goal, to be toned, then that's your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But what we would probably do is kind of shrink the size a little bit, making sure you don't fall below that 30 gram of protein threshold. And then we would have 4 to 6 of those meals per day.
Okay, so when you say shrink the size of, it's like just make sure you shrink the size of the protein, or shrink the size of the overall meal, or the fats? Like, what would you shrink?
Yeah, you just want to make sure that you can eat 4 to 6 times per day, and there's a difference between 4 and 6, certainly.
So you're not stuffing yourself and feeling sick.
Exactly. I mean, people who do intermittently fast, for example, generally eat 1 really big meal. Or 2 really big meals, whereas you would be eating 4 to 6 smaller meals, not because it stokes your metabolism, blah, all this stuff. It's just, it's purely from a fueling your body and triggering muscle protein synthesis. It also, there's things with digestion. Like if you eat 8 servings of vegetables at once, you might have some digestive issues that you wouldn't have if you ate 2 servings of vegetables at a time.
Okay. All right. So if right now, if I'm eating 3 times a day, you would, and I want to become more toned and build more muscle, and I'm going to be working out harder. You have to have the exercise though, going harder exercise, adding the extra food as well though, right? You can't just eat more and not exercise at all.
That's exactly right. Yeah, they're complementary things. Also, and with the harder exercise, you will need to eat more, because it's just like it's the Michael Phelps scenario, where when you train that much, you have to eat more to fuel that process.
Okay. All right. I'm actually feeling like this is doable. This has made it more clear for me. All right.
And I would say there's also we talked about the slight edge a couple times ago. So this isn't a slight edge. This is actually I mean, it will seem like it's a minor thing. That's why I have a hard time with slight edge, but it seems like it's a small thing, but it's actually a huge thing. On the days where you do an 8 or 9, in terms of intensity at the gym with strength training, not some boot camp class that goes on for 60 minutes, because you can't be at an 8 or 9 for 60 minutes by definition. That's not,
Yeah,
right?
this isn't Zumba, right?
No,
This
correct,
is,
correct.
okay.
So,
Okay.
so definitely within a 30-minute window after you finish that, that's got to be one of your 30-gram servings of protein right there, because
Okay.
your body's sort of hype. It's like a sponge. It's like, I won't get into the technical, but it's like your muscles have been depleted of fuel. And if you can immediately refuel them within 30 minutes via high quality protein, great thing to do. Potentially taking in that 30 grams of protein before the workout can also be advantageous as well.
Okay, so last question. Clarify the before the workout thing, because I go to the gym in the mornings, take my kids to school. I go first thing because I want to shower later, right? So what would you eat for breakfast and how? Because there's all kinds of stuff online.
Well, it depends on what you're doing for your exercise. So for some people, if they eat before they exercise at a level 9 or 10, that food won't stay down for long, so they don't. This is why workout shakes generally are a little bit different than what you would normally eat for lunch. For example, like whey protein absorbs very quickly into your body. Protein powder doesn't have fiber in it. It's extremely easy to digest. So that's why, for example, whey protein is used for workouts, because it gets into your body very rapidly. It's easily assimilated. It has a low likelihood of causing digestive issues while you're exercising. Whereas if you were to drink a giant fiber-rich green smoothie right before you did heavy squats, something bad might happen. So you want to avoid that, right?
But there was a trainer who told my friend to have white rice and sweet potatoes before exercising. And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, so this is a whole nother podcast.
Okay, I'm not getting all this.
No, it's okay, because but the short answer is it depends on what your goals are for exercising. If her goal is to lift the most weight she's ever done, then yes, that's absolutely what she should do. If her goal is to burn fat, then she'd probably do something else.
So what would she do? So if I want to burn fat, I'm going to be exercising as hard as I can at an 8. Let's say I'm setting that goal for an 8. If I'm going to the gym I know I'm asking really specific questions, but other people have these questions. So if I'm going to the gym at 7:30 in the morning, what would I do if I wake up at 6?
Yeah, you don't have to eat before you exercise. So you don't have to if you don't want to.
Strawberries or a piece of fruit or anything before I go, or just have an empty stomach?
If you're going to do anything, I would try to get protein into your body. So egg whites, eat egg whites, just scramble egg whites and eat those, or drink a protein shake. And then afterwards, have a protein shake. That's why protein shakes are handy.
Okay. I love it. Thank you for all these specific questions. I feel like I've been thinking about them and asking them in my head for a long time. All right. So next action, what do you think?
Next action is it's try to, so if when we've talked about exercising at a level 8 or 9, sort of, you're like, that's crazy. That's a reasonable thing to say. And this is an area where I think a personal trainer could actually be very, very, very helpful for you, is if you can work with a trainer, you can work with a buddy. And if you've never sort of experienced what it means to achieve, like to do weight training until you can't move the weight, even if your life depended on it, just getting a feeling for that. So maybe this is next action and a stretch goal, is try to figure out a way to slowly and safely feel what it feels like to work up that intensity spectrum. Do not try to do a 9 tomorrow. But if what you're used to is being able to
5 or 4.
if what you're used to is being able to talk while you exercise, I want you to gradually work. Like, okay, now I can't talk while I exercise. I'm going to try to do a little bit more weight, and just try to work your way up that intensity spectrum so you can feel what it feels like to really exercise at that level 8 or 9 safely that we need to be exercising at.
Okay, I like that. So is that my next action and my stretch goal?
It is, because it's not easy.
Okay. Okay. I'm super excited about it. Thanks, Jonathan.